Welcome to another episode of the Rugby Bits podcast. This is myself, Kooks, joined by Sharky Thala. All of you join us later. For myself personally, it's good to be back on the pod. It feels like I've been on for a while. But what a weekend of rugby. It's been a sad one for South African fans as none of our sides are in Europe. But again, what a weekend of rugby in the Challenge Cup and the Champions Cup as we go to the quarterfinal stage. Doesn't feel like a quarterfinal stage because we've got Bordeaux taking on Toulouse on Sunday, which feels like a final that's sort of come very, very early. But what a weekend of rugby it is. And I'm joined by Sharky to kick things off. Sharky, my man, how are you doing?
I'm so good. I'm so good. Just a quick personal update. I just wanted to say thanks to Tyler and Rian a couple of weeks ago for just the podcast. Firstly, because I actually listened to it when I was busy doing my run, but they gave it was so nice to hear, and now that's obviously out in the public that I was going to go do this stupid run. And yeah, I actually downloaded and specifically didn't listen to it and used it as one of my when I'm having a time that I need to disappear. And I did put it on. I think I put it on. It was close to the 2 a.m., like after the middle of the night, like 2 or 3 a.m. on the first night. And I listened to the podcast, and it actually did really well to like get my head off things. But I had a tough one. The Eastern Cape is just so beautiful, but I learned a lot. Fortunately, I can say that it wasn't. So I DNF'd, but I finished 104 kilometers before I bailed. But I'll tell you something, Eastern Cape is beautiful, and I learnt a fair bit. Fortunately, I didn't have there wasn't too much arrogance. I don't feel like I was too arrogant about it, but I was definitely ignorant. I'll tell you that for free. There's stuff I learned running there. People asking me questions like, "Do you have painkillers?" I'm like, "Why do I need painkillers? I don't need painkillers. I didn't pack painkillers. Why? I've never needed them before for a run." They're like, "How sore are your legs?" I'm like, "They're pretty sore." He's like, "Here you go. Take two of these." I was like, "Thank you very much." And he's like, "Why do you have all this stuff?" I was like, "What do you mean? Like, I've taken food." He goes, "You've got like 2 kgs of things here. You don't need that. You've got every hour and a half, 2 hours, you've got a whole buffet. Take stuff off for me." And but it was amazing. Eastern Cape into the Karoo, kind of, it was hot and horrible. Humidity kicked my ass. I've never in my life tried to breathe, then you can't breathe. It's weird. But but yeah, the biggest snails I've ever seen, massive earthworms. Yeah, bit
That's
of
probably
hallucinations. I saw two ducks shaking hands. I saw ladies in the bushes taking photos. They weren't there. I saw houses. I saw all sorts of weird stuff. None of it was true. But hopefully next year I'll be a little bit more compass mentis.
well, at least now you learned the hard way. I mean, you got to know how to pack less food. But no, stock for you, Sharky. I mean, it's happy you're back in one piece. I mean, I think for me it's been a hectic few weeks. Yeah, I think work's been hectic. I've been doing a lot of Varsity Cup, Varsity Shield as well. I think what we're recording was on Thursday, so by the time it goes out, got the final tomorrow of the Shield. Yeah, just some schools festivals, also Easter Rugby Festival. Probably the most bonkers year of schoolboy rugby
Mad.
that we are on the cards for. I mean, like there's I don't
I watched Michael House, by the
yeah,
way. I
Michael as
actually
well
watched
up
that
is
game against Affis, and I was like, their defense got them in it. Their number 12, I forget his name. I'm gonna butcher it if I,
almost the guy.
but then
He was
he
good.
was the one kicking for poles. He was putting in
Yeah,
some monster hits, but their
yeah.
defense saved them, and they just hung in.
Just hung in and then flip and started at the end. I mean, like it was nuts. I mean, Naji College flew to Australia, rolled over Grey Bloom, and then Hilton rolled over Naji. No, I mean, it's been upsets. I mean, Stellenberg look like they've got a cracker side. I mean, they've rolled Paul Boys and Grey in the first couple of weeks. Fontaine lost to JP, but then goes and beats Paul Boys as well. So it's nuts. No, I mean, sorry, I mean, Stellenberg beat Paul Kim. So it's absolutely crazy. And then Paul Roos is just cruising along there unbeaten as number one. But this weekend is absolutely bonkers. I think it's Paul Roos taking on Stellenberg, which is crazy. I mean, you got Rondebosch taking on Weinberg, which would be a good game. You got Affis taking on Paul Kim. Paul Kim's going to have to come up with Pretoria, JPK. So yeah, schoolboy rugby's been full flow, but it's good to be back. It's good to be back on the pod.
Cooks, out of all those kids you saw the weekend, can you name me one that you, or one or two that you reckon have got the best chance of pushing. We'll definitely see play URC and get invited to an alignment camp in the bare minimum.
I'll tell you that, and then the big one, I think, obviously, he didn't play when I think he didn't play over Easter. He played at Nordstate. Jacobus de Villiers, Paul de Villiers' brother. He's an absolute machine. I mean, he's proper. But there's a kid at Grey College, Neil Durant, plays eight as well, 16 years old. I mean, he's an absolute beast. But there's a kid from Hilton, I think, Ruan Mulder, Yappy Mulder's son, plays 9 and 12. Absolute machine on a box kick and hell of a rugby player. Oh, geez, I mean, Lanum Gadesi.
Do you say he plays 9 and 12?
Yeah. So
Dadok's
like,
going to get a French contract
yeah.
before this podcast is finished.
Well, the funny thing is, like the first game I saw him, he was playing 12, but he was coming for a box kick, sending an absolute monster up, and it's just shifts back to 12. Now
That
he
is the best.
he looks like an absolute rugby. He looks proper stuff. But I mean, there's tons. I mean, like, like Ethan van Biljon from Stellenberg. I mean, Rubela from Stellenberg. Like Travis Pfeiffer. No, listen, there's every time you watch Scuba Rugby, you just the level of talent that we produce each year. It's actually disgusting in a good way. But so it just shows how blessed we are.
And is there a changing of the guard? Obviously, with all the upsets and everything.
It
Listen,
seems like
all the
it.
arguments are always about the English schools versus the Afrikaans schools. Like
Yeah.
what's cracking there?
I think it's interesting because I think, end of last year, I said like it's very hard to sort of beat the top five in the Palchem, Paul Boys, Afis, Gray, and Paul Ruiz. But like now, like in Paul Ruiz, I mean they're unbeaten, they're the only unbeaten side so far. I mean Hilton is unbeaten as well, but I mean out of those. But like the nice thing is that the gap seems to be getting a bit smaller. I mean, obviously, like you're seeing a Michael Rolova and Afi Stellenberg is this is their dream team they've been building towards, but they've built themselves a really good program, and it just shows. I mean, they've been playing against. I mean, like the Western Province League is by far probably the toughest schools league, and they've been in the mix and playing the big schools, and now they've got a side that can compete. I mean, to beat Gray and Paul in the space of a week is, Paul come first game and then you're all over Gray, which is nice. And then lots of Gasfontein. Like, it's just like this, I say this year is absolutely mental. Like, you go to a game and you think, okay, this side should be this side, and then someone just gets rolled over. But yeah, it is interesting. Scuba rugby is an interesting space. I mean, I think obviously the big chat now coming on the weekend is just how much rugby the kids are playing. Because, like for example, Gray played and Afis and Jeppy, they played Northside, so they played over the weekend. Like for example, Gray played the Tuesday and then had to play again. And they played Stellenberg on the Tuesday, massive game. And then Thursday they had to play against Naji College, and then you could just see like they're out on their feet. Afis obviously played on Tuesday, played on Saturday. JP played the whole of Northside, and then they lost twice during Easter festivals. But you can also see like the Oaks are just like dead on their feet. I mean, there's just so many Easter festivals. I mean, so many festivals at the moment. Like trying to balance out like how to fit it all in. So I think that's the interesting chat going on now with sort of schoolboy rugby. But I mean, like again, at the end of the day, like you play who's in front of you, and if you're a Michael House fan and a Hilton fan, you are smiling. So yeah, I don't think they're changing God just yet. I think it's gonna again it's consistency. That's the difference between like a Hilton have a very good side and a Michael have a good side. Like the thing is now, can you do that for the next 10 years? That's what Afis does. That's what Pochem does. They just the Grey one's interesting, because Grey's off this weekend, but they play Pochem and Afis back to back. Like, they could sit in a situation where Grey College loses 4 games in a row, which is I can't remember that ever happening. I mean, they haven't lost back-to-back games since 2017. So it's interesting. It's very interesting. But yeah, I think we are in a good place, good rugby. I mean, flipping sold out crowds. I mean, flipping on the like St. John's were charging like $350 for their VIP suite and it was like sold out before the tournament even started and the festival started. No, it's nuts. Scuba rugby is on a different level at the moment.
Oh, good to know.
At
Good
least,
to know. The Grey Festival's coming up soon as well.
yeah, Greyfield's coming up soon. It's the same as Boulder Clover. So yeah, I think it's in end of April, the long weekend.
Yeah.
So yeah, so it's in a good place. But unfortunately, Shark, we're gonna take a turn for the negative now. It is Champions Cup
I try to
quarterfinal
delay it.
and Challenge Cup quarterfinals, and there is not a single South African side in Europe this weekend. I want to talk big picture first, Sharky, before we talk the fixture. like, I mean, this is the chat we've had many a times, but what's going on, Shoki? Like, for me, like, the frustrating thing is, like, looking in hindsight, the big reason we moved to Europe was I enjoyed as like the ability to play the Champions Cup. URC has become a fantastic competition, but I thought the big benefit of us leaving, obviously, Super Rugby was being able to play the Champions Cup. I understand, obviously, the scheduling and the travel, but it's just like it's the best competition in the world, and we're just not in it. Like, and that's the frustrating part. And then for me, I think what does also hurt is like, so teams are going like, we need to rest some players for the URC so we can qualify for the Champions Cup. But then we get the Champions Cup, and then we resting players, or like we miss in the pool stage, and then we get an away playoff game, lose, and you're like, okay, cool, now let's try to get back into said Champions Cup. So I'm like, it's a weird roller coaster that's happening where like we can't play everyone like every game like in the league format because we are risk because URC to get back in the Champions Cup. But we get the Champions Cup, we're not doing anything to make a big splash in the Champions Cup.
I we often, it looks like we scramble or snatch a lot of times. So I think you've put it in such a good way, is we kind of want to be good there, but then we're like, oh, we need to make sure we secure that with the URC. So I don't think that we've quite figured out the balance yet. That's number one. I do think that we are in a little bit of a hiding to nothing with regards to squad depth and the ability to compete on both fronts week in and week out, which is not what you do. So coming from Super Rugby, we are, every game is a must win for Super Rugby. There were very few games. Maybe the Sun Wolves were a game that you could kind of take a understrength side, and they even rolled a few big guys by doing that. But you kind of have to go week in and week out. So we haven't quite figured out how to dovetail. I I feel we need to make sure that we stay fully focused on the URC purely because of what it gives us Champions Cup rugby. And once you qualify for the Champions Cup, then financially it's great for you. But I want us to be focused on the URC and really cherry pick, like be in a space where we can like, cool, we can send a couple of guys, up and coming guys to these games or have them play at home for these teams, etc. But the Champions Cup, the pool stages, I feel we need to be in a position where we play knockout games at home.
Yeah.
So if we can make sure, like, let's not say, right, we need to win the URC and we need to be in the final of the Champions Cup. Let's say I want to have a home knockout game for the round of 16 and be in a position that if we win that game, we actually have a home quarter final. That is where things change. That causes another situation for the traveling sides because that means we're not traveling. Other sides have done one flight in and a flight out because they lost, and another side has to fly in and play that week. Whether they win or lose doesn't matter. So it does change that, and will change the dynamics of quite a few things going forward. But you look at for the life of me, I can't think of the fixtures, but I think it's Saints. It might be Saints or Saracens have quite a tough run in the Premiership now. Like they're in a space as well where they're like, oh, if we're going to secure a top two spot, it could be Bath or Saints. It's not Saracens, but if you want to secure a top two spot or a quarterfinals, sorry, a semi-final spot, because there's only four knockout spaces available in the Prem, they have a tough run coming up and coming off potentially a quarterfinal win this weekend, and then you've got to have a big run, two big away, one big home to secure your semi-final and home semi-final in the Premiership. So that's where things start happening. But for us, I think first and foremost, the URC has to be our focal point. But the URC can be our focus, and we can still integrate players, squad players into the game and team. I'm not talking about 23 changes one week and 23 the next week. I'm talking about 4 or 5. Like we have the ability to do that. I don't think we have squads that thin that we can't do that. But thereafter, Champions Cup should be about making sure that you secure home knockout games. Like if you secure a home round of 16 and a home quarterfinal, and let's say for those 2 weeks you're cooking, you win them, and then maybe you have a home semi or you have an away semi, doesn't matter. That's a different story. Then you start having conversations with the team. We've only got 2 games to win, and then we win the Champions Cup. That's a different mindset altogether. So home knockouts should be our targets, and we need to be able to dovetail a little bit better.
I agree with you. I think, Sharky, like we've got to sort of sit there and be like and be realistic with our targets and going, okay, like I'm not asking us to go in there and win it. Like I think this year's like it's a frustrating one with the Stormers, obviously had that hot start and they were close to having that home playoff game. And you think to yourself like, okay, cool, the Stormers are knocking on the door, and then you're like, oh geez, like you imagine they're getting a home playoff game in Cape Town. You know, a quarter, I mean, a round of 16 and a quarterfinal potentially. And the thing is, obviously, the semifinals won't be in South Africa, but a semifinal game is different. Like you said, it's a different ball, kettle of fish of if you're going away and you're going to a semifinal as opposed to, like a round of 16 game where, they're still like, I mean, like the back-to-back travels will probably catch up with most sides, like of having to go away quarter round of 16, then they're gonna front up again the week after. So it becomes nothing necessarily a long tour. It just becomes very tough, especially going from different countries. But yeah, I think for me it's a frustrating one. Like I just really want to see our sides in the quarters, playing, playing for it, just being in that mix
We're
and
good enough to be there.
100%. I think we are good enough to be there. I think, the Bulls and the Stormers showed that on the weekend. Like, I mean, like the Bulls are fantastic against Glasgow, and it's a tough place to win like to go to Glasgow. It's a tough place to go play rugby. The Bulls fronted up. The Stormers had a great comeback against Toulon, so it's there. And you think it's like it's one or two results in the pool stage. I mean, are we willing to sort of go, in the pool stage? I know the UFC is a be all and end all, and I think, it's like a side like the Stormers, and I know you don't play catch up, but there's certain times you do get fixes like, can a rotated pool side, maybe roll over Scarlets at home? Yeah, I think so. I think they can. And I think obviously like we've got to find a way. Maybe it's balancing the calendar, but I just would like to see more South African sides, in the quarterfinal. It's just sad to know like there's rugby having this weekend. There's also an African team playing, and it's like we're watching the Champions Cup again. I think obviously the guys in Europe are stoked. They're like, yeah, okay, cool. Safa's out the way. Now we can. Now we can sort
Business
of,
as usual.
yeah, business as usual as them. So I mean, that's what I would like to see. I mean, obviously, like you want to see a Bulls in the mix against a Toulouse, Bordeaux, and Port Saracens. I think, and the thing is, for me, the Champions Cup is difficult. I think that's trying to explain that to sort of other fans. Like it's a difficult competition. It is. I mean, the Sharks obviously is frustrating. The Challenge Cup. I mean, they just one of the races on Saturday. I mean, Connacht, I mean, we were very good, but just one of the races on Friday night, and you're just going. If you're a Sharks fan, like which we are, we kind of go, well, it kind of feels like the season's over because now it's again you're so reliant. Now we just hope because the Sharks can't lose another rugby game now. We can't lose again, and we're reliant on other opposition. The Challenge Cup seemed like the way in, and then at first at first opportunity we bottle that. You're like, yeah. So basically, like I think obviously the Sharks all eyes on the URC and running the table. But the frustrating thing, like to go the Sharks side, Sharkies, that we can start with the Sharks. And the frustrating thing is, even if we do run the table and win all the games, it's still not in our hands because we've put ourselves in such a shitty position post all the derbies that now we're reliant on other teams winning. But the problem is the teams we are chasing, it's so tight in between. Like if an Edinburgh wins, for example, over a line or like or vice or something like that, or like then the one side benefits. So the hard thing that's the hard thing for the Sharks. It's especially if the teams are like seven, eight, nine, or they're playing each other. So there's no clear path for us with the Sharks unless it feels like they need a miracle, and it kind of feels like the season's over.
Yeah, it was that not securing a bonus points against Cardiff 2 weeks ago. I think I don't think they got a bonus point. That was like because they had a big win the week before against
Yeah.
Munster, and then they just didn't close it off against Cardiff. Like if they'd BP'd against Cardiff and played a great game and really won well. If they didn't perform in the Challenge Cup, you could be like, okay, cool, because they've got a kind of a chance. But now, just with that 1 point alone, it really changes things. Like as you say, they can go on a 55-0 win in every single one of their games for the rest of the URC and still not qualify. And you don't want to be there. Like
Yeah.
that's not what you want to be. Like there's a reality that they could play their best rugby of this tournament in Europe that they've ever been in. They could play their best rugby for the rest of this season and not qualify for the Champions Cup next year. And then we'll be like, oh, what if, same shit, different day. So yeah, it's frustrating. I feel like the end of every season when we talk about the Sharks, it's very much a case of yeah. Now they can start preparing for next season. Here we go again.
Yeah. It's like,
So so they dropped the ball. I think people underestimate how hard it is to go and win at Connacht. We've actually seen quite a few South African sides do
yeah.
it, but this year they're in a little bit of a different vibe. And Bundy Aki has come back from suspension on more form than he's ever had. He's basically everyone's like, oh, you won't be playing for Ireland or Connacht for that matter, and he's like, okay, cool, I'll show you otherwise. So yeah, it's frustrating for the Sharks, but honestly, you could clip out all of our rants for the last 3, 4 seasons and put them together in the right order, and it would be perfectly relatable to the current Sharks vibes.
No, that is true. I think that is the frustrating part. But you talk Stormers. Stormers going down to Toulon 28-27. Great game on rugby with the Stormers. I mean, Toulon sort of pulled ahead and you thought, oh, it's going to be hard. It just, again, like, it just shows the difference again. Like, we talk about being at home, the ramp, but then Stormers found a way to get back in the game, had chances, they didn't take it. And then obviously at the end, got held up, got that chance to try and win it, got held up, went upstairs. There was no enough evidence to overturn the ref's on-field call. And then, yeah, I think the biggest question, I think some start like the people think like for me is like, why didn't someone get in the pocket? It just looked like at a stage, like it was set up and set up and set up, and I was like, oh, so like this looks like drop goal territory.
Yeah, so very interesting. I know we spoke about this a bit off air, but I didn't watch the game live. I was actually, I think Bath were playing, so I was watching the Bath game. But I saw all the kind of response on social media. So I knew what had happened and how it happened. And then I watched the highlights, and I know the highlights don't always give you everything, but the highlights can also give you an idea of what's going on. And you look at those highlights, and you're like, well, the two held up try opportunities there. One was massive. You can nitpick it all you want, but we know all they need to do is hold you up, and then you're in trouble. Even if it was the old laws, the game would have been over anyway because they wouldn't have scrummed. But yeah, there was an opportunity. Sash is going to nail that kick. The chances of him nailing it are pretty good. But I think there was more wasted opportunity there for the Stormers. Good comeback, but they just couldn't push it over the line. So it was almost like they were stuck in that vibe. I almost think about, when you travel long distances, like if you do go on a road trip in South Africa, you're on the highway, you're traveling 120, 140, then you turn off and you go into this little town, but you're still in highway mode. So you're traveling 120 through this town as opposed to 60, so you can calm your farm. That's kind of where I feel the Stormers were kind of roped in. Like they were just charging, charging, charging. The other thing I want to talk about, controversial. Everyone's talking about Ma Nonu and they were freaking out how it wasn't a red card. I agree, but that would not have changed anything. It was in the 79th minute. A red card equals the same as a yellow card in the actual game. Like nothing else would have changed. So you can't blame the result on that. Anyway, Thala, my man, how are you?
Hello, Tyler.
Well, thanks, guys.
Tada's coming for a cameo here. He's basically is our hybrid.
Yeah, this is a big impact player role I'm trying to play today. Like I'm here for a very quick in and out. Um, I knew it's like it's not a bomb squad situation. It's more like the top 14 when
Yes,
people
rolling
you have like what
subs.
12 subs and they're rolling subs. Yeah, so Ben Tameifuna for one scrum and one run at the line, basically.
Yeah.
Um, yeah, look, can if I can sort of go in on the Stormers quickly. I, yeah, number one, Sasha needs to learn from this. Like, and I'm confident he will, but I think it's so interesting how, when you have like teams in the NFL have what they call 2 minute drills, where if it's 2 minutes, you have that sort of 2 minute warning. You know that obviously you can't take timeouts and all that sort of stuff. You have plays that you have to take you from one side of the field to the other to score a touchdown. And rugby, it seems like rugby teams don't really have that. We can't really make a mistake. What is the best way for us to go from one side of the field to the other to score 3, 5, or 7 points? And clearly, the Stormers did not have any setup for a drop goal because a drop goal is not just a fly responsibility, it's the whole team's responsibility. The nine has to pass well. There needs to be blockers from the forwards. Your backline needs to be set up so that there isn't 15 people trying to charge you down. And the Stormers just unfortunately didn't really have a setup for that. Obviously, the numbers advantage just wasn't really exposed on, but yeah, there was definitely opportunities for them to take that. And I think just generally with the Stormers, they constantly were each other were their own worst enemies in terms of, after every try, they seemed to let in a try from Toulon, or some points were being scored by Toulon. This is a Toulon team that doesn't have confidence. That's I think is 9 wins out of 20 in the top 14 and is like 11th or 12th. Pierre Mignoni has been going through a sort of a tough time personally. He had to take some time off. And I know the Storms aren't in form like compared to the start of the year, but this is definitely one that was dropped. And unfortunately, this weekend, or at least in the Champions Cup with the Bulls and the Stormers, there were opportunities for both teams to take and to actually get really famous away victories in the Champions Cup.
No, I tell you, I think you hit the nail on the head. I think with the Stormers, it does feel like one that got away. And, I think obviously Toulon sort of, like I said, like the amount of mistakes the Stormers made and Toulon just capitalized. And then that 8 point lead just it's a little bit too much. And the Stormers obviously did well to get back in it and then obviously do a late surge. But it just still felt like the Stormers sort of shot themselves in the foot. But to talk about the other South African side, Tyler, thank goodness you're here. We already vented about the Sharks before you came on. So,
Oh, damn.
to be fair, Taylor, we just basically just told the viewers and the listeners to just go back to last year's pod during this time, and they pod last year during this time when we got knocked out of Europe. So it's like it's just basically the same old, same old. But Taylor, with the Bulls, it's just Taylor. I thought the Bulls were fantastic on Saturday to go to Glasgow, and then the thing that's hurt them all season, and what summed up for me the Bulls was they get the try to get back in that game. And you're thinking, the Bulls are back. It is now 22-21. And you think they're good enough. And then burst kickoff. And then the defense has let them down all season. And they allowed Josh McCarr to make that break. And as soon as he made that break, and I was like, I'm like, this sums up the Bulls this season. Like, there's been glimpses of positive here and there, but then it's like, you mustn't kick off, and then the defense lets them down again. Another sloppy try, or not sloppy try, a sloppy line break, and then Glasgow does well enough to sort of close the game out. I mean, what are your thoughts, Sal? I mean, I'm sure you're a lot more frustrated than I was.
Yeah, I mean, obviously, this was Glasgow, the top seed in the or second top seed in the competition. So, they're coming in good form. They're top in the URC. This was going to be one of the biggest upsets. But thank you to the rain. It helped, I think, a lot. I think it did sort of level the playing field for the Bulls. And this was, I think, there's been a lot of struggle in the Johan Ackermann era. This was near the top three best performances for the Bulls, pretty much. It was so mature, it was so measured, it was so smart and tactical. Pollard was in his element. Like you could feel like there wasn't any sort of like questions as to are we going to be the Bulls that tries to win 45-42 at Loftus? We're going to play the right way. We're going to get to the corners. We're going to use our set piece. We're going to turn pressure into points. And they were genuinely having I wouldn't say control of the game, but they didn't allow Glasgow to have control of the game, which I think is even more important. And it made Glasgow's life a lot more difficult. They just couldn't really get the momentum that they wanted in order for them to do what we know they can do on a week-to-week basis. Ultimately, like you said, Cooks, and the Stormers were able to make their way up the field once they got to within a score. The Bulls just weren't.
Mm.
They mess up the kick, or not the kickoff. They kick to Mackay. They don't take him down. They're now back in their 5 meter. Glasgow has the ball. It's now just a waiting game for them, for the Bulls to to concede a penalty. Bulls conceded 13 penalties. That's a lot. It is a rainy game, so you can have some level of concession for that, but unfortunately, still a lot. They got as many entries as Glasgow, or one less entry. They scored less points. Yeah, it's just that they just missed that sort of other 5% to get them through. Maybe if Ulrich Lowe and Cam Hanekom were a bit more match fit, they could have given that 5%. Maybe if Volko Lowe was playing, they could have had that 5%. Maybe if we didn't have injuries like in the midfield and in the back three, that could have happened. I was also not enthused by Johan Ackermann's use over the bench. We pretty much didn't use our bench until the 65th minute. And I think in a game that was so physical and it's raining and everything, you need to get people on as much as possible and try to change the picture for Glasgow. But yeah, look, not too disappointed. I mean, as opposed to the Stormers, I felt like the Stormers lost the game. They should have won. Here, I think the Bulls did well to sort of keep it close. They would be kicking themselves. They could have sort of gone over the line. We literally could have had a quarterfinal in Cape Town, but for a few decisions. So it's unfortunate, but yeah, I'm actually on the positive side for the Bulls. I guess it's just as a South African fan, like you said, Cooks, we've gone through the story multiple times now. I I guess it's kind of like with Super Rugby. It took, 11 years for South African team to win. I just don't see where this win comes from for South African team, honestly. I don't know if it's happening in the next 4 or 5 years. Like, so much has to go right, and you have to prioritize this competition and send your best team home and away. And we know this story by now. If you're going to play knockout games away, you are very likely to lose that game. Like, I think it's only been like, I don't even know what the stat is, but it's been less than 20%, I'm sure, of away teams that have won since we've come in. So if you're not serious about finishing in the top, well, I think to top your log, but especially in the top two of your log, what's the point in participating in this competition?
Because yeah, you're gonna find yourself in this limbo again where sort of the 50-50 sort of games like they tend to go to the home side. But yeah, it is frustrating. But Sharky, for the Bulls, the interesting thing is like where to from here? Like, do they stick to this the way they played on Saturday, or do they go back to that helter-skelter Bulls that will sort of we've seen most of the season where great with ball in hand. Can't, but defensively, it's been a struggle all season.
There's two answers here. There's the right answer, and then there's what's going to happen answer. And I think the right answer would be more of what we saw this weekend in terms of structure and balance and just tweaking a few problems, because it's almost like a better foundation for the Bulls, and then they've got the ability to go mad dog. Like, rather don't make that your game plan, make that an add-on to your game plan. But the thing is, it almost seems like Mad Dog and getting through 45-44 seems to be their game plan this year that they might revert back to. It's almost like a Loftus thing, like this is what we're going to do. We're going to kind of change our identity a little bit, which is weird. If it doesn't give you results, when you want to change in your playing identity and who you are, that's for something that's been around. I mean, we all know Blue Bulls rugby is very different to what we've seen this year. Firstly, they're very happy to win. It's winning is a natural thing for them, but they also have a certain way of doing it, and I don't think it's completely outdated. I think that they can add layers to it, but it's almost like they've scrapped everything and then just added this psycho 45-44 layer. Like, let the boys go. Like, oh, Dobbo's doing it, I'm gonna.
Yeah.
Can I say Sorry, Cooks. Can I just say this has also been the problem for the last few seasons. Even with Jake White, we had this thing of we want to score 1,000,000 points at home, and then we get almost too far onto ourselves away from home, especially in Europe, where we play such a percentages game, which feels like why are we playing these two very vastly different game plans? I know obviously the conditions are very different, but there needs to, like Sean is suggesting, there needs to be some more meeting of the middle. I feel like there's some losses we have away from home, which are because we don't really take initiative when we need to, because we try to just stay in the fight. And then at home, we are just trying to punch teams out with the altitude thing, and then we punch ourselves out, and then a team sort of goes from 30 points behind to 5 points behind, and now we're holding on in the last 5 minutes. Like I've seen this game about 30 times the last 4 seasons. The main thing I need Johan Ackerman to do when he get well, he's back in Pretoria. Take that altitude matter sign off the tunnel at Loftus. It's enough now. RIP to the sign. It served its
You guys
purpose,
spoke about this in the podcast last week. And then
and
Ringo
I'm
was like,
still
oh,
on
hang on
it.
a second, we're higher.
Yeah.
I need that sign to go because maybe the sign is telling them no, run it, and then they'll get tired. But we're the ones that get tired, and obviously the Bulls are the big team trying to bully you with the scrum and the maul and contact. Why am I making Volko Low try to run a 200 pass game? Why am I trying to make, some like Marco van Staden be a mobile player? Like this is not the way to win. So I need the Bulls like this weekend was a good example of it. We have a really good set piece when we focus on it. We're pretty good in contact. Like these are the things that we need to focus on. And if the Bulls are going to make a run in the URC and they at least in a decent position where they might be able to get themselves hopefully fifth or sixth and maybe even top four. But if they're going to make a run in the URC and maybe have to win a away game or two, it needs to be a mix of these two approaches. We need some level of either Leroux or Seb de Klerk to help to sort of just give a bit more impetus to the back line. We need this Pollard that played, but hopefully in combination with a de Klerk, with a Leroux, with a Creel. 2 minute rant on David Creel leaving. Why would the Bulls allow this? I am so disappointed.
To La
David Creel's
Rochelle,
actually one
eh?
of my
Yeah.
to La Rochelle. David Creel's probably my favorite, or at least, yeah, let's say top three favorite Bulls players of these last 5 or so years. He is one of the smartest rugby players. I mean, Will Leroux's in the team. I mean, he's probably number one, but literally one of the smartest rugby players, maximizes his talent, is able to fill in any gap. I have no idea why he doesn't have a Springbok cap yet, but I know obviously we can't compete with what you're going to be paid in euros. He's a player I am trying to keep, especially if the Springbok coach is not interested in him. You have him for pretty much all the games. So why? Yeah, I'd rather have kept him than now buy in some whatever Springbok we get in for next season.
And the thing is the games that he played, the games that the Bulls play when no matter what, is Creel's generally in the top two, top three best performers, whether they
Yeah.
play bad or they play well, he's generally performing. I'm with you. Like they could lose a lot more than a very good player with him. He could turn out to be a little bit of a glue guy, dare I
Yeah.
say it. He covers so much. He's got relationships with so many players in so many different places. It could be a problem.
And he moves everywhere. My moment he's playing 12, 13, now he's at 15, and wherever he goes, he sort of puts his hands up and he's been very good. But tell her before your little stint goes, stint ends here. I mean, I want to quickly talk to you. I mean, I think obviously come this weekend, I think the big games on Sunday between Bordeaux and Toulouse. I mean, tough weekend to be a Leicester fan and and a Bristol Bear fan. I mean, seeing your side catch proper hands. But tell her from what did you see from Bordeaux and Toulouse this weekend, and what are you looking forward to on Sunday? Quickly, my hot take, because I think LBV is probably I think it's the best player in the world at the moment. Like I don't, like that is like what are we doing here? Like that try you scored, I was like, some guy on Twitter was like, the try was forward. I was like, the passing was forward. I was like, okay, leave the pass. Let's look at the thing where he just beat 8 players in a space of 5 meters. Like let's look at that part. Like LBB is like floating on a cloud at the moment. Like he's not playing rugby anymore.
Yeah. Look, I mean, I don't think we learned too much about Toulouse and Bordeaux this weekend. Like, I mean, Leicester, I kind of expected this. Bristol, I thought would at least give some level of competition. Like, I think
They
Bernard Jansen van
did.
Rens,
For 58 seconds, they did. They scored first. They were in the mix. They were in the
fair
mix.
enough.
And then they weren't.
Fair
I mean,
enough.
you say
Yeah,
Sharky says that they're in the mix, or they just piss off to lose. There's two different things of being in the mix. Or just like,
possibly.
yeah,
I look, if you're gonna score first against Toulouse, you better make sure. I remember looking during the first half because I was watching the South African game and I saw like the missed tackles. I saw Bernard Jansen van Rensburg had like 8 missed tackles after 30 minutes. He stayed at 8, which is a positive, I guess. But yeah, I mean, that's a good practice for Jansen van Rensburg when he goes and plays for England because their edge defense is terrible. But this weekend, yeah, I mean, this game has been a classic pretty much every time it's happened. Like, shout out to SuperSport. We now have top 14 games every weekend now through ESPN Africa. So that's been great. So I watched the Toulouse Bordeaux game after the Six Nations. It was in Bordeaux, so Bordeaux is more full strength and Toulouse rested a few people. And yeah, I mean, obviously Bordeaux was Bordeaux, so they were able to sort of pull away. Jalibert was great. Peno at 13 is a problem. Peno at 13 might actually come back and sort of make his way back into the French squad. They've lost now Ran Janssen van Rensburg for the rest of the season with the Achilles tear, which is unfortunate. But the question for, I think it's always been these two questions when these two teams face each other. For Bordeaux, how are you going to manage and contain the Toulouse pack? Like, is Tameifuna, is Bocaton, is Gazzotti, those sort of players, are they able just to sort of, and Coleman, those players just able to stand up against the might of Toulouse? Yes, Toulouse don't really have really good scrummers at the moment, like, but you know, around the park, the Miafus, the Flamonts may be able to make an impact. And then for Toulouse, it's how much do you trust your sort of jouer to go against Bordeaux jouer? Like, are you just able to do that and take opportunities, but are you able just to control things? And this is when the Ntamak Jalibert pot 100 battle is going to be key here. I mean, Ntamak had a really good game, especially considering he was playing with the second team last time against Bordeaux and was scoring all the points. But then at some point when Toulouse needed to get a try, he wasn't able to really manufacture that opportunity. And then pretty much after that, Jalibert takes like almost like a scores like from, or not he scores from 80 meters, but helps to create a try from 80 meters. So you can see obviously the yin and yang of those two. I I want to say Toulouse. I'm probably more Toulouse than Bordeaux. I'm going to find it tough though. Like it's clearly one of, I mean, I think we talked about this literally last season. The one that wins here is going to be the one that loses in the top 14 final or semi-final whenever they face each other. So I I think this will be Bordeaux's time once again. But this, I mean, this game was the match of the season last year with the top 14 final, and the was the semi-final last year. It was really good. I think Sunday is going to be appointment viewing.
yeah. I think Sunday is going to be absolutely special. Tala, thank you for your little cameo. We did it well there, and it tells in the rest. You put us 15 points ahead. Myself and Sharky won't go Bulls and mess this up from here. And
Just manage the lead, lads. Manage the lead.
we've got a 2 minute drill sorted just in case. But it was great to have Tala pop in here with the insight. But Sharky, I mean, I want to talk Bordeaux quickly. I mean, 64-14. So, I like to look big picture. I mean, obviously, I mean, they were incredible in the weekend. I still think they're the best side in Europe, probably the best club side in the world, the most dangerous side to play against. I mean, like, you got all the firepower they have, and then Salesi Rayesi, who's been an incredible signing for them. What a finish that was on the weekend. I mean, like, it just shows, obviously. I mean, it fits like a glove into what they do. When I was at 13, Jalibert is playing rugby at a different level. I mean, the pack is operating well. Great sides that we remember, like obviously in Champions Cup, they go back to back or they win, 2 in 3 years. You think of the Toulouse sides, the Leinster sides, and the Saracen sides. Do you think now Bordeaux, for example, they've got a side they can go all the way and put themselves in one of the great European sides we've seen?
Yeah, I'm going to disagree with Salah here. I think Bordeaux take this. They're playing at home, and I think there's a good chance that they I don't think it's a cut and dry for the rest of the season. I think Bordeaux, they want to get that monkey off their back, and they're doing it. They do it in moments, but they haven't really been decisive. Like we saw it with La Rochelle when they won the Champions Cup. They were like, "This is great. We want it back to back, but we really want one thing, and that is
Yeah.
to win the top 14." But more importantly, French sides, I think deep down they know that they have better squads and they have more money. So I think the double, like to win the Champions Cup means you must go and do the double. You can't
Yeah.
do one or the other. Like it almost feels like it doesn't count. I know the top 14 is the most important, but doing the double is huge. So I think Bordeaux have got it all the way. That factor with winning this one and potentially losing the final, I think probably fits more with Bath versus Saints this weekend than with Bordeaux and Toulouse. Um, dare I say it? I have a funny feeling Toulouse are slightly on the cusp of going down, and I think Bordeaux are still got another season of going up in their kind of vibes. And that's kind of how it looks to me. So I'd go with Bordeaux in the top 14 and in the Champions Cup.
I like that. I like that's very interesting you say that, Sharky. I think obviously Toulouse, I mean, they've been the powerhouses of Europe. They've been there and thereabouts for, I mean, for many years. I think it's an interesting one because I mean, one thing about Toulouse and Bordeaux, but especially Toulouse, they always recruit well. And obviously, I mean, they've got some big guys coming in next season. So I always expect to lose sort of be in that mix. Yes, you say like it could be slightly going down. I mean, and Bordeaux, like, is it a situation where you have, what do you call it? You have a situation where it's like a La Rochelle, like, is this going to be a nice little 3, 4 year run? And then obviously, then another French side comes up. So that's going to be the interesting thing that happens with Bordeaux. But so like, I want to go across. I want to go across the pond to the English sides there. I want to talk Bath Saracens, but more specifically Bath. This is probably now for them the next chapter in the evolution that they had under geez, Johan van Kraan. Yeah,
Johan van Kraan.
my brain just went blank there. Under Johan van Kraan, where obviously we saw them last year get the monkey off the back, get winning the Premiership. Obviously, they did the treble, and now it's doing it in Europe, in doing it in the Champions Cup and the biggest competition in the world. And now they've sort of beat a good Saracen side. I mean, obviously, well, they want to beat the local. They're in the quarterfinal. Do you think Bath, what you saw on the weekend, have got enough to sort of kick on and challenge the Bordeaux, the Toulouse of the world?
I think Bath have the ability to beat any one of those sides on the day. I but I can't I don't look at Bath now like we looked at Saracens back in the day, like we looked at Leinster back in the day, when you like know they are going to steamroll their way to the final and then they're probably going to win the final. For Bath, I really do feel that the Premiership is takes center stage and everything, and they're gonna give it a good tonk. But they've also come up against uh, a Saints side that are very competitive last year and this year. I mean, they were finalists last year. They were in the mix in the Premiership this year, last year as well. So there's two good sides in the Premiership that are there. So it could go either way. Like I don't see Bath as dominant right now as how Saracens were when they went on their run. Um, can Bath do it? Yes, but I still have this nagging feeling that it's either or for them. Um, I know they went and they got the treble last year, but that was like there was great dovetailing. One thing I will say is, Hans van Kraan, the way he dovetailed those tournaments and and got Bath to be that competitive with guys that were new names to so many people, like the vibe there was good. And that's kind of pushed through. But there are a lot of guys leaving this year, and this is kind of their season that they want to do it. I do think that the double is definitely in the conversation. I think if you ask any of those players what they want to win, they'll say the Premiership. They want to go back to back in the Premiership. So I have a funny feeling it's either or, and I don't really know how it's going to go. But playing at the Rec this weekend is huge. They've named their sides. Bath have quite a bit to fix from the weekend. They they were a bit disjointed against Saracens. They weren't as accurate as they should be, and Saracens, with some errors that Bath gave and with some good fortune and some good play by Saracens, you see it with these sides when they're on the down, when they still got that good quality ingrained in them, they tend to kind of gain momentum and power through, and that's what happened to Saracens, and they were properly in the mix. And Bath eventually, I mean, it literally took that end-to-end try for that was the swing votes in the game. Saracens were about to score, they coughed it up, and then Bath Spencer scored like 100 meter, not on his own, but it was Bath 100 meter team try. So they're good enough to beat any side. I'll say that. To say they're going to go do the double is a bit. I'm a bit nervous to say that. If push comes to shove, it'll probably be Prem. But this weekend is massive. Like, this is the other final. Everyone's talking about Toulouse Bordeaux. This is the big one because I feel that Toulouse Bordeaux, Saints, Bath, and probably Leinster, just because of the heritage they have, are should be the semi-finalists. So figure out one of those that shouldn't be there. Well, all the South Africans will probably say Leinster, or they'll probably say Saints just because Henry Pollock's playing for them. So they have this weird hate vibe.
I mean, but you can't throw away the Saints. I mean, like I'm talking about the Saints who take on Bath this weekend. It feels like they're still scoring. I mean, how did that game on Friday was absolutely nuts against Cash. I mean, 49-41.
They got pulled in. They got pulled in. They never watched any knockout games from Castres in the past. They never watched how they went and won the top 14 by qualifying in eighth for the knockouts. They didn't watch that because that's what they do. They go there, they will go play 3 away games, and they will play in your face, messy, scrubby, dirty, throw sand in your eyes, piss in your drink bottle. They'll do it all. Like, they don't care about anything except just unsettling you and winning with a Rory Cockett kick. So, yeah, Saints nearly got pulled into that.
I mean, they nearly did. I mean, listen, I must say, like, I mean, they did well to sort of keep them at arm's length. I mean, at just a stage. But I mean, it was a cracking game. But even Saints, I mean, coming of a final last year, I mean, this weekend is, I mean, obviously it's going to be massive going down to the wreck. Shaki, I don't want to go an upset call, but I mean, there's something about the Saints side that just comes alive in in his European weekends.
And at the wreck, eh? Remember the beginning of the season, Saints sent I don't want to say a second choice side, but they didn't send a full choice, a first choice team to the wreck in the Prem and absolutely obliterated Bath. So Bath are a little bit going to be a little bit nervous about it as well. This could be the game, and it's on a Friday, which is flippin' sensational.
Yeah. No, it's perfect. And then, Sale is a side for me that always makes me, because I always feel like for Sale, like they're like the Quins, you've got the Marcus Smith, and the rugby they play, Bath obviously from Grant, from Russell, Saints have got Henry Pollock, Saracens, Saracens have, got Farrell and they've got the pedigree. Sale just like mind their own business, keep creeping along. I mean, that's a great win for them away from home against the Quins.
Brilliant. Big problem for Sales. They've lost Rod and Cowan Dickey.
Yeah.
Long term. I think Cowan Dickey broke his arm. I think Rod, I don't know what he did, but he also got a shoulder problem, dislocation. So they're long term. But George Ford was outstanding. I know Tyler put the mockers on him by saying he's the best 10 in the world, and it all went tits up after that in the Six Nations for him. Then they dropped him. George Ford, you could do a lot worse than having him in your side. He's a kind of player that would fit almost any style of play at 10. He's got a running game, he's got a kicking game, he's got a consolidation game. He's got a bit of grunt, he likes contact. So yeah, he was unbelievable. It's going to be a tough one. I thought Morris Lowe, I thought the midfield was pretty handy as well. I thought that dovetailed well, the 10, 12, and 13. Marcy White was an absolute beast. Quite little unsung hero, potentially man of the match kind of guy. And then, it was Quins are not looking themselves.
Mm.
So I don't know if you can. I missed some news. What's his face? The ex-Wallaby coach, the New Zealander, Robbie Deans. He's going to be coaching
Is
Quins next year, or is involved in
he
Quins,
involved?
offline, online.
Yeah.
I don't know. Remotely is the word I'm
Yeah.
looking for. So I don't know if that's the right thing for the Quins now. Quins have been wobbling a little bit. I almost feel like they really need someone there just to help them along, just kind of guide them and
Yeah.
then implement it.
They've been like in a bit of a weird limbo since they won that Prem title. And it's sort of like it's sort of like they've sort of almost like living that how do we play? Are we the same Quins? How do we play? And they've been that sort of in the little middle patch, which been it's been weird for them. And like they've been in the mix here and there. Like it feels like they haven't had a splash much in the Premiership, so they are in an interesting space. But for me, like a triple interesting space as we wrap up the quarterfinal in the round of 16. I don't know what to make of Leinster this season. Like I don't know if they're great or like they just because I mean Edinburgh gave it as Edinburgh was fantastic for about 60 odd minutes. I mean you see you're like, oh Jesus, is Leinster about to lose another weird game? Because Leinster have lost some weird games this season and yes, some people are like, yeah, but those games have rested a few players have rotated, but there's games even when they used to rotate, they don't normally lose. Like when I watch Leinster now, like sometimes it feels similar to how I watch Ireland, and like when they're on, they're fantastic. But there's certain times, and but more like with Leinster, I'm like I just watch them, like I just don't know. Like the game on the weekend, I'm like, you watch the first 60, you're like, who is the side? Then you watch it and then finish the game, you're like, oh, okay, there's the Leinster that I know.
The best way I can explain it is you're watching Leinster going, when are they going to lose, not if they're going to lose.
Yeah,
Like, a loss is coming. So they've still got all of that pedigree and that quality. They've got that game plan. They've got everything, but they're not a tournament favorite.
yeah,
We're used to them being tournament favorites. You know, the Crusaders in Super Rugby are tournament favorites. No matter what, they're tournament favorites. Not anymore, but they're previously. The Bulls went on a 3-year run. You know that you are going to have to work flipping hard. You're going to have to get lucky. You have to have the best game plan. All of your players have to be playing at 100%, and you need to get a little bit of luck to beat them. It's not the case with Leinster anymore. Like you can beat Leinster by executing a good game plan and having your game drivers operate well and everyone dovetail with them. So Leinster are the kind of side that if you don't prepare for, they will beat you. But if you prepare really well for them, you can throw them off their stride. Edinburgh showed that. Like Edinburgh had 3 intercept tries, so they picked up something somewhere. I think the commentator said they scored 21 points with 0 phases,
yeah.
which I was like, yeah, that's quite a stat. But yeah, Edinburgh surprised me big time. I was watching this and just waiting for Leinster to pull away, and then Edinburgh got back in the mix. But that's all Edinburgh. It's all any side wants. The big sides will be competitive with Leinster, but any minnow knows that they can, if they're competitive with Leinster with 15, 20 minutes to play, they could potentially steal the game. That's the difference. Sides go there now and go, we actually could win this. Let's play hard for 60 minutes and then see where we stand. And then we will just go on vibes after that. Let the adrenaline take us the rest of the way. Where previously that wasn't the case. Previous was like, don't let Leinster score in the first 5 minutes. Don't let them score in the 5 minutes either side of half time. And don't let them score 3 tries, get 3 tries clear with 60 minutes to play because they'll kill you. It's different. The people approach them, they know they're beatable. They know that you can go there and execute, you can get them on an off day. Sides approach that differently. You don't play Bordeaux at home thinking you're going to be in with a chance with 20 minutes to play. You go there scoring a try in the first 5 minutes and then you take 65 points and go, there's some positives I can take out of this game.
No, 100%. I think that's what Leinster is. They're in a weird limbo. I mean, knowing them, they'll go rock up and put in a performance this weekend. You go, oh yeah, there they go. But again, it does feel like it's weird for me. Like I feel like they're in the in between. Like they're definitely favorites against Sale. But like for example, like I don't think they're as good as a Bordeaux or Toulouse. But like for example, like I can like I trust them more than I trust a Bath in the semi-final. So they're in that weird limbo, like where it's gonna be like
Yeah,
where like a Bath is gonna for me, it's still, they gotta go and do it, prove it by beating them. But to talk quarterfinals this weekend, Sharky, I mean we mentioned Bath and Saints. I mean Glasgow and Toulon. I think if you Glasgow, like not to write off Toulon, but this again, Sharky goes to the point of making of what happens when being a second seed and getting a home playoff game. Because if you Glasgow, you've got the Bulls. If out of all the sides you take, you probably want a Toulon side coming to coming to Glasgow than most other sides that you could have gotten in that draw.
absolutely. And Glasgow love they love that underdog vibe. They love that everyone hates us kind of vibe too. They enjoy playing at home, but they have no problem playing away. It is probably the best draw. Now, I agree with you. It's between Toulon and Sale who you'd want to face at home as a favorable draw. I think Sale because of the some of their key injuries, and Sale have had the opportunity, have had the chance to wobble, and Toulon have not been great, as Tyler mentioned. They haven't had their best season. So Toulon away from home, no Ma Nonu, so they're gonna have to do some other goody melodies. Yeah, good call.
I think also Toulon though, like I think if you are a Glasgow fan, obviously you're probably thinking, but not to relax too much, but to be slightly wary because like it depends on the side that Toulon sends. But I mean, they're still a full strength side. I mean, nothing more dangerous than a French side with nothing to lose.
Yeah. And it's quarterfinals. Like this is, I don't think this is a case of not going all full ball.
Yeah, no, definitely be full
I
tilt.
think everyone goes the whole 9 yards. But the thing is I think Toulon secretly will have that conversation like in with the players and the team management, and they will also look at that and go, "This is actually a great game for us."
Yeah.
Like we struggled against the Stormers at home. We managed to beat them. Now we take that momentum and we play against Glasgow, who have wobbled. They're strong at home, but they will look at Glasgow as a side that they can beat for sure.
100%. Again, if you to learn as well, you're probably thinking other way, like, geez, we've avoided going to Bordeaux or a Leinster or Bar. He's like, yeah, we'll fancy ourselves in Glasgow. But to make a prediction, Sharky, would you got Glasgow?
Oh, I want to say yes, but then I also want to like Toulon. There were a couple of key players that really didn't have good games
Hmm.
and could probably turn things around. Um, yeah, I'm talking myself out of it. I can't see Glasgow losing at home. Glasgow Glasgow have previously didn't have that back-to-back in them, but they've got that now. They've got that back-to-back game. Like there's so many sides that will put on a massive performance one week and the next week, like they still got the hangover from that.
Yeah.
They don't have that anymore. They've still got it. And they've got a point to prove. Like they've got a whole bunch of guys that are leaving as well. So there's a little bit of an emotional vibe to it.
Yeah, I
And
think
plus, they want everyone to write them off. This is their bread and butter.
no, I've got Glasgow as well. I think I agree with you in terms of they're sort of putting themselves. They are a very good side, and these are the games where like you're no longer saying like, "Oof, there's an upset." You're going. You expect Glasgow to win at home against Toulon, but you expect them to win at home a game like this. So yeah, I've got Glasgow, and I mean I think it'll be great to see them in a Champions Cup semi-final. I mean the Franco Smith story just gets better and better, and then Leinster Sale. I think for Leinster again, it's. The funny thing for me with Leinster, I think obviously Sale having losing, I think, with it, I mean with Ireland, we've seen how vulnerable their scrum is, and then obviously it's even Leinster something you could potentially punish. I see Leinster winning this game for me, Shockey, quite comfortably. But I still feel like we still won't know what Leinster is. I think unless they put in a performance for the ages, I just think one, Sale just does not have enough. to go to Cardiff, to go to the Viva if they are playing the Viva, but to go to Dublin to roll over Leinster. I just don't think they have enough, especially losing Rod and now Cowan Dickey.
No, they don't. Leinster are a great back-to-back side. It's when Leinster have to play the semi-final in a few weeks, when there's
Yeah.
been a downturn and
Yeah.
they have to now get the vibe back. So this
After
week,
after resting 30 players. No, I'm like,
yeah, yeah, and sending them all over the world to play different tournaments. So I think Leinster will do well. Leinster also had a bit of a scare last week, and the Wolves have been at the door for a while. Leinster also want, if they put in a dominant performance, they do get to shut everyone down a little bit and allow themselves to focus on themselves because they're getting heat from everywhere. They're getting heat from fans, from opposition, from everyone. Like, you're not good enough. You're not what you used to be. Like, they never had that noise before. Like, it was only supports and then basically non-Leinster Irish fans hating on them, you know? So I think they probably want a big win for everyone to try and kind of just take a deep breath and go, cool, now we can chill and focus on the URC. But they're in a bad space. Like, I think the noise, they corporas a little bit. I think the noise is there in the back of their head. Like, it just gets louder and louder during the game or outside of the game, and they might overthink things a touch.
yeah, I think that's the thing. I think that's not. This is an interesting one. Like I think Leinster could be because like, yeah, I think Leinster's the weird thing with Leinster is that like we just go, yeah, we'll see them in the final, and they just got to find a way to beat La Rochelle or Toulouse. Like that's what it's been. They've had that weird performance in them, especially like now, I mean, obviously last year against Saints. But I think they'll be too strong for Sale. Bath Saints, we talked about it, but I didn't get your prediction there. I think it's Friday night. I mean, what a cracker to have on a Friday night. Bath at home, Saints. Want to go back to the semi-final, go back to the final. Who you got?
Yeah. So Bath have made a few changes, and they're quite interesting ones. So they've swapped Miles Reed and Alfie Barbary around at 8. So for me, I thought I was saying to a mate of mine, the way I thought Bath would approach this was very much a similar sort of blanketed style game plan that they approached Saracens with, except they needed to execute better in certain spaces. That's where I think they failed. So I kind of wanted much of the same, but they made a few changes. Like Jomo's out, so I can only assume he's injured. I don't see him not making this team if he's fit. Jomo's out, pretty much the same. Joe Cokanasiga's out as well. The horse is back, Will Muir. And then, yeah, Underhill Reed in the loose trio with Guy Pepper, that's pretty handy, but it's the bench for me. I mean, Tuipulotu, that guy, Bath must do whatever they can to hold on to him. I have a funny feeling with these injuries that we'll see Tuipulotu playing a little bit for England this year. So we'll see George and Tuipulotu potentially. I'm not convinced with Theodan. I think they need to scrap that, but England are England. They've got Francois van Wyk and Thomas Latour on the bench again. So when in doubt, in emergency, just break glass. Then Maloney, Ted Hill, Bernard van der Linde, Santi Carreras, and Alfred Barbary. They got a strong bench. But Saints and Bath have been preparing for each other for 2 seasons now. They know each other. They know the strengths and weaknesses. They know the pressure points. It's going to be tough. I think it'll be closer. It's going to be a close game. And it's going to be a fitting quarterfinal, probably a game good enough to be a semi-final. And we'll probably see it 28-24 some way. I don't know where. I want to say Bath, but I don't mind if Saints win either. Don't tell Alex I said that because he'll flip and shit the bed. But I can see Saints winning. I think Bath are slightly they're favorites. They absolutely are favorites, but I don't think by too much. And if Bath can get their game plan together early and start imposing themselves early and bring on their bench front row when they want to, not when they have to, then it's a different game and Bath roll it.
I think, for me, I think there's always one away side. I'll back in the Champions Cup, and I think it's going to be Saints this weekend. And I mean, I never like picking against my girlfriend, but I just think the Saints, there's something about the Saints that's just about them, these European Cup wickets. I think Bath, obviously, is a massive test for them, obviously, because they want to get into the top four of Champions Cup, sort of in the next level and like of where they're going. But like I said, I can see a Saints win and then Bath sort of puts them in a Prem Cup final for something like that. That is what I can see. So I'm gonna go Bath at home. And then lastly, I mean, I think you said you
I
went
just
for
want to, I'm sorry, my man. I just want to go back. So Saints also struggled a bit defensively before they got into the groove of things.
yeah.
But George Furbank coming back for them is massive.
No, it's
Um, he did make
massive.
some errors, but him coming in on attack, him and De Glanville actually operate very similar. Furbank probably slightly edges him on attack, but I think De Glanville and him play very similar, where De Glanville possibly a little bit better on D and positioning. But yeah, it's gonna be good. Sorry to interrupt you.
It's gonna be very good. And then I think obviously Sunday, all eyes on Bordeaux taking on Toulouse, which I mean, Tyler's gone for Toulouse, you've gone for Bordeaux. I mean,
So you the swing vote, bro. You the swing
I'm
vote.
I'm Bordeaux at home. Like I said, I think Bordeaux is the best side in Europe. I think they're going back to back. For me, with Bordeaux, I think obviously like Tyler, I love to mention like is Toulouse going to back their jouer ways against Bordeaux? It's very hard to out Bordeaux at the moment. I think they are as stacked as Toulouse is, their backline. I just think like there's no more dangerous backline in World Rugby than that Bordeaux backline, and everyone is cooking. I think also for me, the biggest key is that Jalibert is operating on a different level at the moment, and he's operating like he's their best player, and like now when you got Bill Barry there, I mean, he's probably their best player. But LBB operating at a different level. That's why I think for me is going to be the key. Is going to be Jalibert and LBB, like those two. I mean, obviously with Toulouse, I think the pack is going to be the big difference in Miafa, but I just think that Bordeaux is just slightly a level ahead of Toulouse, and as tight as it is, I think I have to lean towards Bordeaux. But I mean, geez, shocking. I mean, that could blink and that could be a flipping 46-45 game in a heartbeat.
And it could be a 46-45 where you don't complain about the defense. Like it'll
Yeah.
be one of those games, it'll just be absolute full of great defense, but the reason why those points were scored is because their attack was phenomenal and they got unlocked. Like, and listen, Jalibert, the amount of kicks he was retaining this weekend, it was childish. That man, who was it? Who was it that always used to kick and catch? So Bowden Barrett, actually.
There's
How
a,
many times, remember in the beginning when Bowden Barrett would kick for himself and the amount of times he would take it?
yeah.
Jalibert in that space at the moment. Like he always seems to get the bounce or he has the most perfect weight on it. So yeah, we're in for an absolute cracker.
You're right. I mean, you got Bowden Barrett's good. I mean, Andre Paul is also very good at catching his own. So now, but I mean, Dan Bigger just one day woke up. Like he
That's
was
it.
outstanding at like kicking and retrieving his own up and unders. That's gonna be interesting. But to go on the other side, Sharky Challenge Cup as well. I mean, Friday with Challenge Cup would also taking on La Rochelle. La Rochelle obviously well rested. I would love for Ulster. I think we are an Ulster pro Ulster pod here on rugby, but I would love to see Ulster semi-final against La Rochelle. I think Ulster. I mean Belfast is gonna be pumping. It's gonna be loud. It's gonna be raving. I mean, I definitely see Ulster winning that one. I know La Rochelle's. I mean, heavily rotate. I mean, similar start to last week, but I think I'll still take that one at home.
Yeah. Ulster would be the favorites to win the Challenge Cup for me. Their current form, like you look at them and you look at their team and their form, and you're like, this is Champions Cup material. So them, Montpellier, Exeter, probably a little bit in the mix, but I think Ulster by far favorites, and obviously La Rochelle. But I'm talking Ulster up like this because I agree with you in that I think Ulster win this. Um, it'll be tough for La Rochelle to get themselves up for this and travel away. I think they're still trying to figure out some stuff. Um, but I don't know. I think the winner of this game could potentially be the favorite for the tournament, is maybe the best way, most diplomatic way of putting it. But
And
I'm going
then
Ulster.
and then we've got Montpellier taking on Connacht. Obviously Montpellier at home. Connacht, I mean, listen, Connacht as well. Like for me, they could have got a little fairy tale run here. Tough side to play at home, but now they got over to Montpellier. Who you got?
Montpellier. Uh, but I think it's going to be a little. The thing is, Connacht are able to put pressure on a side. So that's the one thing Connacht have lacked for a while is being able to consistently pressurize sides and then force them into mistakes. Because I think that the confidence they get from that, and they are building a side, and they've got decent enough players to actually capitalize on it. I think if Connacht can be in the mix, that's the one thing. If they could be in the mix with 10 minutes to play, I think Montpellier might struggle a little bit mentally, to close out the game. But it'll be hard not to say Montpellier now. Um, yeah, I'm going Montpellier.
Yeah, I think I lean towards Montpellier as well. I think them at home, it's hard to beat. I mean, I'd love to see Connacht. I mean, obviously, listen, it depends. Bandiaki could just go and do Bandiaki things and just make sure that Connacht continues the momentum. But this is my fun game for the weekend. Zebre taking on the Dragons. Someone is going to be in a European quarterfinal. Well, what a story for my guys, the Dragons. Like, look how far we've come. Look how far we've come, Shoki. I'm going for the Dragons. I'm going to believe in the dream. I know they're playing. Look how far my guys have come. From me hating on them, and now what a story it would be to see my Dragons in a European semi-final. And I'm not going to stop believing I'm with the Dragons all the way.
If Dragons make the final, not even
Oh,
if they
oh,
win it,
oh,
if
oh.
Dragons make the final, you have to support the Dragons like it is your childhood team the whole of next season. If they
Oh,
make the final.
I will be there and I will
Okay.
be happy for my
Get
Dragons.
you a jersey, any games in South Africa you're gonna go to.
We
Okay.
put we
I'm
put our
so
beef
glad
we put our beef aside now. I mean, obviously,
I see
listen,
so.
even for
I
Zebra,
see
I mean,
so.
I think like again, the Challenge Cup is obviously like which is the cool thing about for me. Like what I enjoy about the Challenge Cup, and obviously things like Europa League and football, but like you do get these kind of fixtures for like a Zebra and a Dragons for them to be in a mix to get in a sort of European semi-final. I mean, obviously, with your Zebra and Dragons, they want to be back in the Champions Cup, but like this is cool. I mean, this is what you want to see,
Yeah.
stuff like this, and I think for me, like for both sides, I mean, like I'll be happy for both sides, but obviously, I'm with the Dragons. I'm believing in my guys.
Yeah, so and listen, the Dragons, the way they won and how they beat Stade Francais the weekend was unbelievable. So yeah, both sides come through courtesy of beating French teams. It's going to be massive. The thing is no matter who wins this game, it's going to be just epic story for the semi-finals. So yeah, I don't know how to pick this. I I'm looking at this and I go, it has to be Dragons. But I mean, these two are historically the bottom of the barrel URC sides for many years. So, but Dragons for me. Dragons got
We
to be.
we believe in the Dragons. And lastly, Shocky Benetton taking on Exeter. I've got it's a tight one, but again, I'm believing in Benetton. They were good last week, and they were very very good. So I'm gonna stick with Benetton, and I think I've got them going to the semis.
Yeah, me too, actually. I thought you might have gone with Exeter. Baxter's changed a few things at Exeter. They do seem to have turned the corner a little bit. Um, but Benetton have been unbelievable, especially at home. Surely. So the only away win we've got is Dragons, right?
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah.
There's always one. There's always one away win. Hopefully, it's I'll take it being the Dragons, but Michelle goes. I mean, we are in for some incredible rugby this weekend, and obviously, we are bleak that there's no South African sides in there, which is obviously we always want to see our guys in there. But I mean, I want to quickly sort of talk big picture here for our SSRs before we wrap up. Stormers, you think they'll in top two?
If the Stormers, I've got to pull up this log. If the Stormers end top two,
Pull up for you now.
yeah, I'm just grabbing it quickly.
I mean, they're second
Sorry,
now,
guys. Yeah, so
4 points ahead of Ulster.
if Stormers end top two and they do it with gaining momentum, because in order for them to finish top two, they do probably need to win all their games because Ulster and Leinster are due to get some good points somewhere along the line. So if Stormers finish second, I think they will have some good momentum and have come out of this sort of slump on a positive note and will look good for the rest of the tournament. So I'm going to say that. So can the Stormers save their season and go on all the way? If they stay in second, yes.
I think so as well. I mean, listen, when they go back to work in a couple of weeks' time, they got Connacht at home, which you expect them to win. The Bulls obviously go on tour now. I mean, they got the Dragons away from home. The Dragons might have the hangover from
The
being,
Challenge Cup champions.
yeah, they got the drag. They might have the hangover of qualify for the semis. But the Bulls for me, like if you look at the log, I mean, I think phew, it's a fight. But if I look at, I mean, they're eighth right now. Connacht is on 39. Sharks on 33. Just, and obviously, I just still think the Bulls are a better side than say Connacht and the Sharks. And then for me, like obviously the Munster and Cardiff and that fight in the Lions, I still see the Bulls getting in the quarterfinals. Just like
Yeah,
I just look at the
yeah,
quality of I can see them getting in the quarterfinals. The interesting one for me, Sharky, is the Lions. So the Lions are on 43. I mean, they've been fantastic, but they a couple next week. They got Glasgow at home. So now depending which Glasgow doesn't seem to be a side that like rotates as much as we think. So that's gonna be interesting. They have Glasgow at home, and then they have Connacht at home the week after, and then they wrap up their tour with Leinster Munster. They have to they have to leave with two wins there. They have to be Glasgow and they have to be. I feel like you don't want to get a situation where you're needing something in Dublin and in Limerick.
yeah. It's going to be tough. I think Bulls are in a good space. I think Glasgow can afford mentally. I think they will look at it going, we can afford to slip up a game somewhere and
Yeah.
then make sure we finish top two. But obviously they want to finish top. So that could be an opportunity for the Lions, all depending on what happens this weekend. But it's the Bulls are. The thing is we look at the Bulls and we think about the Bulls like, cool. The Bulls got 4 or 5 games left. I don't even know how many, but you'd be like a fair amount of them, like they can go away and still be focused and get stuff going. But it's almost like the Bulls are also in that space, like we want to kind of get our season over and done with, but we're hanging on to a quarterfinal spot. But they don't want to play quarterfinals away from home
Yeah.
either. So, and they're currently there. So they need to put in a massive shift now. Like, go on holiday, enjoy the Maldives, come back, and let's focus on business, not stuff around stuff.
No, I agree with you. Luckily for them, the Bulls, they finished with two home games. But interesting enough, looking at the fixtures, I mean, I think 25th of April, Stormers Glasgow, massive for the Stormers. That's a must win because that's a must win. And obviously, Glasgow, I think it wouldn't surprise me for Glasgow, like you said, not saying if there's a game to lose, the Lions game, target Stormers, make sure we stay above them. So that is going to be an interesting one. But yeah, Sharky, I think that's a good place to leave it. I'm not talking about the Sharks. We spoke that one enough, but it's a good place to leave it. Thank you guys for joining us for another episode of Rugby Podcast. Make sure you join, you subscribe on YouTube, listen to us on all podcasting platforms. And there's still a lot of rugby. Enjoy the rugby this weekend. It's some fantastic European rugby. Super Rugby is on as well. SA Cup road to the semi-finals heating up as Varsity Shield, Varsity Cup finals on Monday. Tuks taking on Bika, which is going to be a good game. And then obviously some fantastic schoolboy rugby happening. a feast of rugby as we sort of now the season is sort of starting. The domain's starting to really get in a full flow. There's no more international to distract us, and looking forward to some fantastic rugby. Sharky, thanks for joining me today.
Cooks, it was amazing. Thank you so much. All the best, guys.
Cheers, guys.